Next, I want to introduce you to Carmen Gurruchaga of Spain. She is, raise your hand, Carmen. Yeah. Carmen is a political reporter for El Mundo, a Madrid-based daily newspaper, where she writes about the Basque separatist group ETA. Her stories have so threatened the terrorist group that since 1984, it has waged a campaign against her. The worst came in December of 1997 when ETA bombed her home while she was inside with her 2 children. Fortunately, no one was injured, but she was forced to relocate with her sons to Madrid. Carmen remains on ETA's hit list and is now under constant protection of 2 bodyguards. She continues reporting and just published a book, The Chiefs of ETA, in September, which I guess the ETA is not too happy about. Can we see the video on Carmen?
Carmen Gurruchaga of Spain was recently named a hero by U.S. News and World Report, the only journalist on the list. Writing for Madrid's El Mundo daily newspaper, Gurruchaga was recognized for her reporting on the Basque separatist movement, the ETA. Gurruchaga, who is of Basque descent herself, has covered the ETA for 20 years. Since 1968, the group has been waging a bloody campaign for an independent Basque state, with terror tactics that have left more than 800 dead. The ETA branded Gurruchaga a traitor, claimed she was a mouthpiece for the government, and went after her. It threw Molotov cocktails into her office, destroyed her car, and plastered posters discrediting her around her hometown. Then, one night in December 1997, Gurruchaga heard a deafening sound and went to her front door. She saw a ball of fire coming towards her. The blast deflected into an empty room, but it destroyed her home, injured her dog, and terrified her 2 sons. A single mother, she decided to leave her beloved Basque country and move to Madrid. But undaunted, she refused to be forced out of her profession or out of her conviction. She is still on ETA's hit list, but her byline remains prominent in El Mundo. Her second book, The Chiefs of ETA, has just been published. She now lives with her sons in a secure compound and travels with 2 bodyguards. She knows the risks she continues to take, but says, "I'm going to fight in whatever way I can, even if it's only with a pen and paper." For her persistence and extraordinary bravery, the IWMF presents Carmen Gurruchaga with the Courage in Journalism Award.
Janeth Bedoya Lima is from Colombia. Janeth covers the conflict between the Colombian government, guerrillas, and the paramilitary groups for the Bogotá daily newspaper El Espectador. Her reports have regularly earned her harassment and threats, including one harrowing incident in May last year when she was kidnapped at gunpoint, drugged, brutally beaten, and repeatedly raped. Though many Colombian journalists have fled the country after being threatened, Janeth decided to stay in Colombia and return to her job just 2 weeks after being abducted. She now works under protection of a bodyguard. Can we see the video?
Janeth Bedoya Lima of Colombia is only 27 years old. Yet as a reporter for Bogotá's daily El Espectador, she works one of the newspaper's toughest beats, covering the Civil War. Bedoya works as a journalist in a country where 51 journalists have been killed in the last decade, 7 of them this year alone. She barely escaped being included among those tragic statistics. Last year, on May 25th, she was lured to La Modelo prison by the prospect of getting an interview with the leader of a gang of inmates from the right-wing terrorist group known as AUC. In plain view of prison guards, 2 men grabbed her, put a drug-soaked cloth over her face, blindfolded her, dragged her into a van, and drove 3 hours from Bogotá. While drifting in and out of consciousness, she was raped repeatedly, tortured, and humiliated. Her attackers also told her how they were going to kill some of her colleagues. Bedoya thought they were going to kill her too, but surprisingly, they let her live. A taxi driver found her bound and gagged at the local garbage dump. 2 weeks after the attack, she was back at work. She admits it was difficult at first. She was frightened and anxious about her safety. There were thoughts of leaving Colombia, as so many journalists have done. But Bedoya says that her horrific experience has helped her be more sensitive in her reporting, looking for the human face in the news. When she goes on assignment these days, she travels with a bodyguard in a bulletproof car. This courageous young journalist says to those who would try to destroy a free and fair press, "They can silence me and kill me and torture me, but there will always be someone willing to expose the truth. They cannot kill everyone." For her extraordinary bravery, the IWMF presents the Courage in Journalism Award to Janeth Bedoya Lima.
And by the way, between Janeth and Carmen is Chris Bain Borrego, who is their translator. Yes. Unfortunately, our fourth awardee was not able to travel to the United States to be with us. She is Amal Abbas from Sudan, and we honor her in her absence, and I'll tell you a little bit about her, and we'll see her video as well. She is the editor-in-chief of a newspaper in Sudan, Al-Ra Al-Akhar, which means other perspectives. She is the only woman in that country to hold that level of a position in the news media. Even before she became the editor-in-chief, the newspaper had been critical of the Sudanese regime and had really kind of run into a lot of conflicts with the government. About a month after she became editor, it started again. From May to September 1999, the newspaper was suspended by the government for a total of 72 days. Then in September of that year, the president imposed an indefinite ban on the newspaper. The suspension was lifted after 2 months after outcries from the citizens and pressure from international press freedom groups. In January of this year, Amal was jailed for 36 hours for refusing to apologize for an article that accused a government official of misappropriating funds. She said of her stint in prison, "It was an invaluable experience that allowed me a closer look at the problems of our society." Clearly a woman who takes opportunity wherever she sees it. Later in the year, the newspaper levied several fines, or the government levied several fines on the newspaper, including one of $400,000, which, if you can imagine, is an extraordinary amount of money in Sudan. Unable to pay the fines, Amal and a reporter were both sentenced to 3 months in prison. She was released after 17 days. Let's watch the video on Amal.
Amal Abbas of Sudan was named editor-in-chief of the Khartoum daily newspaper Al-Ra Al-Akhar in April 1999. A journalist for 30 years, she is the first and only woman in her Muslim-led country to achieve such a high position in the news media. But any pride of accomplishment Ms. Abbas may have enjoyed in her new job was short-lived. Just 1 month after she became editor, her problems with the Sudanese government began. Her newspaper, which tries to provide other perspectives, it says, had long been critical of the 12-year rule of strongman President Omar Hassan al-Bashir. As editor-in-chief, Abbas continued the paper's tradition of challenging the dictator's policies. In retaliation, the government's notorious security forces shut down the presses. Only when Sudanese citizens and international press freedom groups complained did the government lift the ban. Fearlessly, Abbas continued the paper's investigative reporting, publishing an article accusing a government official of misappropriating funds. When she refused court orders to run an apology, Abbas was jailed this past January for 36 hours. She was jailed again in February after publishing an article about official corruption. When she and a colleague could not pay the fine, they were sentenced to 3 months in prison. Abbas served 17 days in the women's jail before being released by a court of appeals. It was suggested to Abbas that if she doesn't quit her profession, she might be killed. To those who would silence her, she says, "We only say what's true. fight corruption, and demand democracy and freedom. And she adds, truth and trueness are clearer even than the shining sun of an equatorial midday. For all this, IWMF presents the Courage in Journalism Award to Amal Abbas.
Do you want me to start by asking a question and then open it up? I think one of the most interesting questions that gets to the heart of what these women do and what the organization does is your motivation for doing the work that you do. Clearly you put yourself at risk, your family at risk, your career. Why is it that you put your life on the line to do this work?
Shall I answer first?
Sure.
I think because we believe in the freedom of expression.
Y porque hay que defenderla y porque no se puede vivir sin libertad.
We must defend this freedom of expression because we cannot live without freedom.
Okay. En el caso de Colombia es prácticamente lo mismo, ¿no?
In regards to Colombia, the situation is practically the same.
Creo que como periodistas tenemos una responsabilidad muy grande frente a la opinión pública y frente al país.
As journalists, we have a very great responsibility to the public and to the country.
Y es precisamente defender la libertad de expresión.
And it's exactly that. We must defend freedom of expression.
Well, in Colombia, so many journalists have left the country. The government has told the journalists that we cannot protect you. Why do you stay?
Bueno, sí, mi caso es, digamos que de los muy pocos casos en los que el periodista decide quedarse.
Well, in my case, I think I'm one of the very few journalists who has decided to stay.
Porque la mayoría de periodistas que resultan amenazados en este momento están exilados, asilados en otro país y
Because most other journalists who are threatened are exiled, or they have sought asylum in other countries.
pero creo porque es que cada quien es dueño de su miedo y en mi caso yo decidí quedarme y ellos, cada quien tiene sus motivos.
But I believe that everyone is the owner of one's fear, and in my case, I decided to stay. We all have our own convictions.
Is that a well-known phrase, or is that something you just made up? Owner of your fear.
No, es algo que he repetido desde el día siguiente de mi secuestro porque otros compañeros también fueron amenazados.
It's something that I have said on repeated occasions since the day after my abduction.
Y uno de los periodistas que fue amenazado decidió salir del país inmediatamente.
Other colleagues of mine have been threatened, and one of my colleagues who was threatened decided to leave the country immediately.
Y él fue a mi apartamento, yo no podía moverme, él se arrodilló junto a mi cama.
He came to my apartment, and I couldn't move then. He knelt by my bed,
Me tomó las manos y me dijo, tengo mucho miedo
and he took me by the hands and he said, I'm very afraid,
y lo mejor que podemos hacer es irnos.
and the best we can do is to leave.
Y yo le dije, lo mejor que puedes hacer es irte tú, yo me quedo.
And I said to him, the best that you can do is go, but I'm going to stay.
Y en ese momento entendí que sí, que él tenía mucho miedo y que yo también tenía mucho miedo, pero cada uno lo manejaba diferente.
And at that moment, I realized that yes, he was very afraid, and I was also afraid, but we all handle it differently.
Por eso cada quien es dueño de su miedo.
That's why I say everybody is the owner of his or her own fear.
Carmen, you just put out a book, The Chiefs of the ETA, which exposed some people who were involved with the ETA, some politicians that were involved with it.
Explain a little bit about the ETA and the history.
Oops. Do you want to do that?
Es una organización terrorista
ETA is, the ETA, ETA, is a terrorist organization
de origen vasco
of Basque origin
que hace comete sus acciones en toda España, en este momento en toda España, primero solo en el País Vasco, en este momento en toda España,
that first carried out its terrorist activities only in the Basque country, but now carries out terrorism throughout the country.
que ha matado a 800 personas,
This group has killed 800 people,
que justificó sus actuaciones hasta el año 75 porque España era una dictadura,
and up until the year 1975, they justified these acts because Spain had been a dictatorship.
y que desde el año 75 la justifica diciendo que el gobierno español, aunque sea democrático, no da la independencia al País Vasco.
But as of 1975, they continue to justify their terrorist acts by saying that although Spain is a democracy, it has yet to grant independence to the Basque country.
El 80% de sus asesinatos los ha cometido en democracia
80% of the murders have been carried out during Spain's democracy.
y desde el año 96 los periodistas somos un objetivo de ETA.
And since 1996, we journalists have become a target of ETA.
Y el año pasado mató a un compañero mío del periódico
And last year, one of my colleagues at the newspaper was killed.
y este año ha matado a otro y ha herido gravemente a otro.
This year, the group has killed one other journalist and has seriously wounded another.
Eso es ETA.
This is it.
And you have been a target of the ETA since 1984. Yet you go on television, you're a regular commentator on television and radio talking about the ETA. And then you come out with a book that names names. How do you think the ETA is going to react now that the book is out when you go back?
Yo creo que reaccionará mal porque el año pasado yo publiqué otro libro
I think it's going to react badly because last year I published another book
y ETA utilizó el libro como paquete bomba para mandárselo al decano del Colegio de Abogados de San Sebastián.
and ETA used this book as a package bomb and sent it to the Dean of Studies at the University in San Sebastián.
Y durante este año ETA me ha hecho un poco la vida imposible a lo largo de todo el año.
And ETA has been making my life difficult all year long.
Y me imagino que el libro este no les va a gustar nada y que algo harán, pero no sé. muy
And
bien.
I assume they're not going to like this book at all and they're going to try to do something, but I don't know.
Well, let me turn to Koki. Wake her up a little bit here. Koki, could you talk a little bit about whether the media has changed for the better or the worse in your experience? Do you think it's on a upward plane or going in another way?
I can address that. I think that we had a lot more fun in the old days. We drank more and smoked more and ran around more. But it's really true that I think it is a lot more professional and a lot more sophisticated today. And you must be, of course, you'd have to be. I find the journalism, the reporters and the editors are better educated. And there was a time when there was kind of a tramp system goes on. You might work in San Francisco for a couple years and then lose your job or whatever, and you'd travel around it. It was a whole different, the old days, more like Ben Hecht's movie, The Front Page. I don't see that today. I do think that people and reporters, men and women, are a lot more responsible. At the same time, I also think that they have forgotten sometimes why they're in the business, and that it is for the readers and not for their bylines. You must always remember that it is for readers and why. I've never forgotten the things I learned in my first weeks at the newspaper, way back in a small town. People love to see their names and their friends' names in the newspaper. They like to see celebrations of their own rites and rituals. The stories they read, they help them to find themselves. And we have a lot of problems today about whether readers trust newspapers. And I never found that difficult. I think they trust newspapers until they learn not to trust them. What's ahead? It's what we call the convergence. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about that. You go on the Chicago Tribune, you're also on radio, you're also on cable TV, and you know, you no longer are just in print. I think the print is the core of what you do, but it's used in many ways, and you have to learn how to do that. There are some people that I've worked with are just dynamite in writing and dynamite by explaining it on television. And I think your future is going to include a lot of that, those who are going into journalism. I also think that you may well indeed work on papers that are tightly edited and going to be a little bit smaller. But that also means that your writing has to be better. And so in storytelling, which is what we all need to do, if we didn't have storytelling in newspapers, we wouldn't know where we've been and who we are. We must not give that up. So you have to learn to write better and learn to write as you learn to write shorter. But writing is in storytelling, okay? Name of the game. Women, the doors are open for women, and it depends on what you do with it. Editors, male editors in male-defined newsrooms have never been terribly easy, but I think that if you really want to do it, you don't ask anybody's permission, editors included. You do it. You just do it. And I think being determined, all of us up here have seen marvelous women editors, and nobody appointed any of these women. They did it themselves. And that's the same for men as well as women. I think that sometimes you get on a paper and the editors are so intimidating and they say, you know, you jump and you say, how high? But I think it's you who make the choices and you decide what it is you're in the business for, and then you just do it.
One of the things that I'm not
By the
sure...
way, you should point out that these same Chicago Tribune people now own the Los Angeles Times.
right.
And
I hesitate to mention that.
and KTLA, and one of our beloved professors, Terry Anzer, who was an anchor woman, is no longer in this market. So convergence can carry a penalty.
Oh.
She's now off in Florida somewhere. And
You mean the use of the cross the board?
Yeah.
Well, it is certainly tightening the news stats. The reason it started, I mean, one was technology, but the next was people who counted marbles, right?
Let me ask you a question about the role of women journalists. I mean, clearly, in case of the award winner from Afghanistan, there was a female perspective that was not being covered in the media. Is this true in the stories that you're covering? Is there an importance for women journalists? Is there a need for women journalists? Is there a perspective that would be missed if there weren't women journalists?
Yo creo que las mujeres tenemos una perspectiva diferente, no solo en la prensa, en cualquier profesión, ¿no? Desde un
Well,
punto de
I think
vista-
that we women have a different perspective, not only in the press, but in all areas of life.
También en política el punto de vista es diferente.
As well, in politics, we have a different point of view.
Yo creo que las mujeres tenemos una escala de prioridades diferentes a las que tienen los hombres.
I think that women have a different hierarchy of priorities than men do.
Y a la hora de contar una historia, que es al fin y al cabo lo que hacemos los periodistas, también damos prioridad a unas cosas antes que a otras.
And when it comes to writing a story, which is basically what we journalists do, we also have a different set of priorities with which we work.
Y a lo mejor en el tema del terrorismo damos más prioridad al aspecto humano que al aspecto político.
And perhaps when it comes to terrorism, we underline the human aspects of it a little bit more than the political aspects.
También contamos el político, pero en segundo lugar, yo creo.
We also cover the political perspective, but I think that it's in the secondary position.
Entonces, si no estuviéramos las mujeres, faltaría ese punto de vista.
So if women journalists didn't exist, that perspective would be missing.
Yo considero que, aunque suene muy feminista, no es lo mismo leer un texto escrito por una mujer que por un hombre.
Yes, at the risk of sounding very feminist, it's not the same to read a text written by a woman as it is to read one written by a man.
Sobre todo en los temas que tienen que ver con violencia y con terrorismo, es diferente a como cuenta una mujer la masacre de determinado número de personas a como la cuenta un hombre.
Especially when it comes to reporting on violence or terrorist acts. A woman would cover a massacre in a different light than a man would.
Y en algunos casos, hablo específicamente de la prensa en Colombia, son más razonables las mujeres que no los hombres.
And I'm speaking right now from the Colombian perspective, but I think in some cases we women give a more reasonable approach to some of the stories.
Para manejar el tema del terrorismo.
For instance, in talking about the topic of terrorism.
Should we turn to questions? Or?
Les damos la palabra a ellos.
No?
No tanto.
Oh, you need to go to the microphone. That's going
Tendrán
to
que
be...
pasar al micrófono.
So, come on, crowd. Yes, go ahead.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you all for doing what you're doing. I'm really glad that there are people like you in the world right now. What I wanted to ask you about was, before September 11th, I'm embarrassed to say that our news coverage in the United States focused on the reemergence of a basketball star and the extramarital affairs of a congressman. And we didn't hear anything about what was happening in Colombia or Spain. How can we find out, why aren't we hearing about that over here, and how can we find out more information about what's happening over there?
Nosotros siempre nos hemos quejado de que en Estados Unidos no se diera cobertura informativa a un problema como es ETA o el IRA que estaban sucediendo en el corazón de Europa.
We journalists abroad have always complained about the fact that in the United States there hasn't been good news coverage on groups like the ETA or the IRA, which operates in the heart of Europe.
Y por ejemplo, nosotros conseguimos que pusieran a ETA en la lista de organizaciones terroristas en Estados Unidos en el año 97.
And we weren't able to achieve getting ETA put on an international list of terrorists until the year 1997.
Y bueno, nosotros siempre hemos creído que en Estados Unidos interesa poco lo que pueda pasar en Europa.
And we've always believed that in the United States, people aren't very interested in what is happening in Europe.
Puede ser porque el país es muy grande y tiene demasiados problemas, o puede ser porque se miran a sí mismo demasiado.
It might be because the country is so large, or it might be because they look at themselves too much.
Pero creo que a partir del 11 de septiembre aquí la gente ha percibido e interiorizado lo que es el terrorismo.
But I think that as of September 11th, people in this country have understood what terrorism is like,
Desgraciadamente para ellos.
unfortunately for them.
Y que sí podremos pelear juntos para acabar con el terrorismo, que realmente es la guerra.
And I believe that together we can fight terrorism, which is an act of war.
Agregando algo a lo que dice Carmen, no solamente mucho respeto, Estados Unidos no le importa mucho lo que pasa en el del centro de Europa, sino en el resto del país.
And adding to what Carmen says,
resto del mundo.
in all due respect to the United States, not only is the United States not interested in what is happening in Europe, but it's not really interested in what's happening in the rest of the world,
Desde que no afecte sus intereses económicos.
and unless it affects their economic interests.
Y en Estados Unidos se empezó a saber de la crítica situación de Colombia cuando el Senado aprobó una partida presupuestal para el Plan Colombia contra el narcotráfico.
And the United States didn't understand, or didn't begin to understand, the critical situation in Colombia until the Senate approved an anti-terrorist law to aid Colombia.
Pero sin embargo, con la presión de la prensa colombiana y de varias ONGs, se logró que fueran incluidos dentro de la lista de terroristas del mundo
However, with the aid of different government groups and different non-government organizations,
3 grupos colombianos, que son 2 guerrillas y uno de paramilitares.
3 groups were finally named as being terrorist groups. These are 2 guerrilla groups and 1 paramilitary group.
Yes, the question I have is exclusively directed to the Colombian journalist. I don't wish to sound insensitive to what happened to her because that was a very tragic ordeal. However, I would like to know, is she biased? Is she a member of any left-wing or left-leaning type of organization? And the second part of the question is the violence against journalists universal? Have left-wing organizations, has the drug cartels, have they also murdered and tortured journalists also?
¿La violencia solamente ataca a los izquierdistas o también a los carteles de narcotraficantes y a los de derechas?
Bueno, no soy de izquierda afortunadamente, ni de derecha tampoco.
No, fortunately I'm not leftist nor am I right wing.
Para ser periodista en Colombia, aunque no lo crean, toca ser muy del centro.
In order to be a journalist in Colombia, although it's hard to believe, you really must stay in the center.
Porque inclinarse al menos 5 puntos hacia alguno de los 2 lados puede costarle la vida.
Because if you lean even 5 degrees to one side or the other, that might lead to your own death.
Y la situación tan crítica de la prensa colombiana es que si uno denuncia algo,
The critical situation of the press in Colombia
es que si tú denuncias algo de los paramilitares, inmediatamente te caen encima, y con la guerrilla lo mismo.
is if you report on something that the paramilitary groups have done, then immediately they're going to be on your backs. And the same things happen with the guerrilla groups.
Porque ellos encontraron que la manera de salir a flote sin que la prensa los toque es acabando con la prensa.
Because they found that the way to get by without the press bothering them is just to get rid of the press.
People, please, I know you have questions. I hope they're not intimidated by these microphones, so come up and ask a few. But let me just persist a little bit with Colombia. We have been very interested in Colombia because of the drug trafficking. U.S. policy has been directed. We've been involved in Colombian politics. So whether the American public has followed it, what the United States has done has great consequence for Colombia. How do you assess the U.S. role in relation to Colombia?
Colombia, ¿cómo evalúas las actuaciones de Estados Unidos en Colombia?
Bueno, ese tiene 2 caras, ¿no? La positiva y la negativa. Y
There are 2 sides to that. There's the positive side and there's a negative side.
la positiva es que por fin hay una mano dura para acabar con el narcotráfico, que es lo que se quiere.
The positive side is that finally we're seeing a tough stance against drug trafficking, which is what everybody wants.
Y la negativa es que le demuestra a Colombia y al mundo que nosotros mismos no fuimos capaces de acabar con el problema.
The negative side, however, is that this shows Colombia and shows the entire world that we were not able to do away with this problem on our own.
y que no alejamos de nuestra mente el fantasma de un segundo Vietnam.
And it's not far from our minds the fact that this could be a second Vietnam.
Yes, I would like to ask if you could expand on her statement about a woman being able to be more reasonable in her approach, for example, in writing about terrorism.
A ver, en el caso colombiano, y hablo específicamente del caso colombiano, en este momento son muchas las mujeres cabezas de familia que han tenido que abandonar sus hogares huyendo de la violencia.
I speak now only for the case of Colombia, but right now there are many women who are heads of their households and they've had to leave the country because of violence.
Han tenido que salir de sus casas con sus hijos, con solo la ropa que tienen puesta y emigrar hacia las ciudades.
And they've had to leave their houses with their children in tow and wearing the clothes on their back and had to emigrate to the larger cities.
Muchas han sido torturadas, violadas y han tenido que sufrir atropellos inimaginables.
And many of these women have been tortured and been raped, and they've had to suffer unthinkable atrocities.
Y nosotras, las mujeres periodistas colombianas, hemos podido ver esa realidad más con el corazón para podérselo contar a la opinión pública.
And we, Colombian women journalists, have been able to tell the story to the Colombian people with greater sense of heart.
Los hombres se han limitado a tratar la noticia por número, por litros de sangre, por número de muertos.
Men seem to tell the story in the news using numbers, using liters of blood, using the figures.
La mujer periodista en Colombia ha logrado encontrar la cara de la guerra y el rostro humano de la guerra.
Women journalists in Colombia have been able to find the face of war and shown this human face to the people.
Por eso decía que no quería sonar muy feminista, pero es porque nos ha tocado a nosotras mismas afrontarlo y vivirlo.
That's why I said that I didn't want to sound like a feminist or too much of a feminist, but we've had to live through this and finally managed to do this on our own.
No, igual que las mujeres tenemos otro punto de vista siempre más humano de lo que he dicho antes.
I think that, as I said before, women have more of a human perspective.
First of all, I just wanted to say it's breathtaking to be in the company of such courageous individuals. My question is, as journalists cover the world scene full of conflict, how does one look or view or determine the difference between freedom fighters who are suppressed and terrorists?
In my country, it's very clear there's only one terrorist group.
Y ese grupo terrorista trata precisamente de acabar con la libertad.
And that group specifically is trying to do away with freedom.
Por eso trata de matar a periodistas, mata a periodistas, quema librerías.
That's why they attempt to assassinate journalists. They actually kill journalists. They burn bookstores.
De alguna manera está tratando de destruir todo lo que significa libertad.
In a certain way, they're trying to destroy everything that means or stands for freedom.
O sea que está muy claro quiénes son los que matan y dónde están las víctimas.
So in this case, it's very clear who are the murderers and who are the victims.
Y no hay posibilidad de que las víctimas sean otra cosa que víctimas.
And there's no possibility that the victims could be anything but victims.
Y las víctimas son los que luchan por la libertad.
And the victims are the ones who are fighting for freedom.
But just to expand on this, you mentioned the IRA. And there are people who have regarded the IRA, even people in this country, as, I guess, to use your word, freedom fighters. And there are movements. I just happen to be, well, I'll stop it there, but let me just add, I just happen to be listening to KCRW, and they mentioned, Menachem Begin blew up a hotel when he was fighting for the independence of Israel. He was considered a terrorist, and he became a great statesman. Nelson Mandela was another example of someone who swung from.
Yo creo que el IRA y ETA son dos casos muy similares.
I think that IRA and the ETA are very similar
Solo en un sentido,
in one regard.
que los dos buscan la independencia de una parte de un país.
Both of these groups are seeking the independence of a certain part of the country.
Pero sucede que en un país democrático como es España, y voy a hablar de España, no de Irlanda,
But the situation is that in a democratic country such as Spain, and I'm going to speak about Spain and not Ireland,
pero podría ser asimilable a Irlanda,
although it could be comparable to the situation in Ireland.
hay unas instituciones democráticas en España en las que se puede defender el derecho del País Vasco a ser independiente.
There are democratic institutions through which one can seek the independence for the Basque country.
Y no es necesario asesinar para luchar por esa independencia.
And it's not necessary to kill people in order to fight for that freedom.
Es por eso que yo en este momento, a alguien que utiliza la violencia para conseguir unos fines políticos, le llamo terrorista.
That's why I, at this point in time, am calling anybody who uses violence to achieve a political end is a terrorist. I call them a terrorist.
Puede perseguir esos mismos fines en instituciones democráticas y puede defender esos mismos fines sin matar en instituciones democráticas, y de hecho hay otra parte del nacionalismo que lo hace.
Because there are other means through which these political freedoms can be sought, and there are democratic institutions within our political system where it is being done and it can be done.
This question is for Mrs. Bedoya and Guruchaga. ¿Podrían platicar un poco acerca de el enfoque periodístico que se le da ahorita al proceso que está pasando este país, ahora que es una víctima en vez de un agresor? The question is basically, I asked them to talk a little bit about what the journalistic focus is about this country now that it's a victim as opposed to an aggressor in this terrorism war.
En España el apoyo ha sido total.
In Spain, our country has entirely and completely supported this country.
Y desde la izquierda ha habido algunas críticas a ese apoyo total del gobierno.
And from the left, there's been some criticism of that total and absolute support for the government.
Precisamente porque durante muchos años Estados Unidos no ha querido enterarse de que en España teníamos el mismo problema.
Precisely because for so many years the United States turned a blind eye to the fact that we in Spain had the same problem.
Bueno, de cualquier forma, España y el resto de los países de la Unión Europea, que son 14 más, apoyan totalmente las acciones que ha emprendido Estados Unidos.
At any rate, Spain and the other 14 members of the European Union have entirely supported the actions of the United States.
Y la cobertura informativa es total, todo el día la radio, la televisión, los periódicos, todo el día.
And the press covers it all the time. It's 24 hours a day on the radio, on TV, over the internet.
Y las repercusiones económicas también.
As well as the economic retaliation and the economic repercussions that we're seeing. We're also being affected by those economic repercussions.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you guys on your award, and also I wanted to ask you, obviously the media has been a target abroad of terrorists, but in the U.S. it really hasn't been the case, and now with the numerous cases of anthrax that, besides Capitol Hill and Governor Pataki's office, really they've been directed towards the media. Do you think in the U.S. the media is the new target of terrorists, and if so, what should we do?
evidente porque el terrorismo es fascismo, es dictadura y es totalitarismo.
It's obvious because terrorism is fascism, it's a dictatorship.
Totalitarismo.
It's totalitarianism.
Y la prensa es exactamente lo contrario, es libertad.
And the press or the media is exactly the opposite. It symbolizes freedom.
Así que necesariamente deben enfrentarse o deben estar enfrentados.
So there's a natural opposition to these
Por eso
forces.
el primer objetivo de un grupo terrorista siempre es destruir la prensa.
And that, in that case, and because of this, the first target of a terrorist group will always be the press.
Yo preferiría contestar la pregunta anterior.
I prefer to answer the previous question.
En Colombia fue muy paradójico porque el 11 de septiembre en la tarde la guerrilla inundó varias ciudades con papelitas que decían por fin les tocó a los hijos de puta.
It was very much of a paradox in Colombia because on September 11th in the afternoon, the guerrilla threw small papers on small towns in the country saying, finally, these sons of bitches got their own.
Y la reacción de la prensa y creo que de los colombianos en general fue de un respaldo total y de un apoyo moral a distancia para el pueblo norteamericano.
And the reaction, the response of the Colombian press and the Colombian country in general was one of total support for the United States.
Porque nosotros decíamos, sí, les tocó, pero nosotros ya sabemos cuánto están sufriendo porque es lo que todos los días sufrimos nosotros.
And it was also a moral, we felt one of moral support that even if it was at a long distance, we knew what it felt like and we wanted to support them entirely.
Bob, we can pass these mics around into the interior, so some of you who can't come out to the mic,
But we have.
if you raise your hand, we'll just pass them on in from either side.
I have a question.
Okay.
In the videos,
That's a good, but let me just say, it's a good idea. If somebody would raise their hand, we could get some more questions. Yeah.
in the videos, it showed all about your careers, but this is the question for all the women. I was wondering how you grew up to be, have courage in journalism. Did you have a lot of support in your families? Because it seems your women tend to run, and what made you have courage? What was your support?
In my specific case, I have 2 children.
Que creo que les gusta lo que hace su madre. Y además tengo unos padres fantásticos que me han apoyado en todo momento.
And I think they really like what their mother does. And aside from that, I have a fantastic mother and father who have always supported me.
Mis hijos se quedaron sin padre porque murió y el apoyo de mis padres para que yo pudiera trabajar fue fundamental.
My children were left without a father very young because he died. And so I had a great deal of support from my family.
En mi caso, el principal apoyo es el de mi madre.
In my case, the main support comes from my mom.
Pero realmente lo que me dio el impulso para seguir fue poder seguir trabajando en Colombia, paradójicamente.
But really what prompted me to continue was, and I know this sounds paradoxical, but was to be able to continue to work in Colombia.
Lo que hago es lo que me gusta y estoy muy enamorada de mi carrera.
What I do, I like very much, and I'm very much in love with my profession.
Y poder escribir me llena mucho y me da fuerzas para seguir.
And being able to write really is good for me, and it helps me to continue. It fulfills me.
This question's for Koki. You mentioned that the reporters now kind of have forgotten why they were in the business. Sorry.
You can stand up.
She's in here.
Okay. just that they're in the business for readers, as far as all the, or for the audience, I guess, as far as all the sensationalism that we see now, the sex and scandal and violence, do you think that's what the public wants?
Yes, I think public wants the truth, but I think that what you do today is go around. I mean, nobody shouts. Newspapers that are going to be really successful will no longer shout the news. By that I mean, breaking stories are such instant news now from so many mediums. And so it's going behind the news that you must do, and doing, as these young women talk so much about, is to do the human side of the news so that you do understand it truly. I think there's been a lot of difficulty in, there have been so many researchers and marketers who went around the country when newspapers got in trouble. They wanted to know what was wrong, and so they were told that what they had to do was do local news, that they didn't think readers were interested in global news. And I think they were always wrong about that, and now we're finding out that that is true.
Yeah.
We have a question right over here.
Oh, okay.
In Spain and Colombia, it seems like the journalists, men and women, are targets of these terrorist groups. But I was wondering what hardships women had, how much more difficult it was for women journalists than men.
Los mismos que las mujeres periodistas en Estados Unidos, supongo.
Specifically in Spain, I would say that the problems that women journalists face are the same as they face here in the United States.
En el periodismo de base hay más mujeres que hombres.
In general, there are more female journalists than men.
Pero a medida que uno va subiendo escalafones, va
at the lower levels. But as you rise in the ranks,
se va invirtiendo los términos.
This ratio is reversed.
Y hay más hombres en puestos de responsabilidad que mujeres.
There are more men in higher positions than women.
Hasta el punto que cuando uno llega al primer nivel ya solo hay hombres.
So much so that when you get to the highest level, there are only men.
Y ese es el problema de las mujeres periodistas en España.
And that is the problem for women journalists in Spain.
En Colombia, afortunadamente, sí hay más cabida para cargos de alto nivel para las mujeres.
In Colombia, there is more room for women in higher positions in the press.
Hay directoras de periódicos.
There are actual newspaper directors who are women.
Pero la dificultad para la periodista mujer es más en el área de orden público, que es lo que cubro yo.
But difficulties for female journalists really occur in the area that I work in, which is the area of public order.
Porque en el momento de un combate, un militar prefiere subir a un fotógrafo hombre y a un periodista hombre que a una mujer.
Because when it comes to covering a combat, a military personnel would much rather get in a picture or have an interview with a man than with a woman.
Y como mujer es difícil llegar a una zona de combates y tener que dormir en medio de 3.500 hombres.
And for a woman, it's very difficult to try to cover a combat zone without, and you must do this by sleeping among 3,500 men.
En medio de condiciones de guerra y sin la ayuda de nadie.
Under conditions of war and without help from anybody.
Hi, what is your opinion about the war that
Wait a minute, is Spanish the only language you don't know?
Sorry. Yeah, my question is, what?
You know,
Sorry,
German, French, Italian, but okay.
My question is, what is your opinion about the war that the United States is leading in Afghanistan? Do you think it is the proper way, or there should be another way to solve the problem. Thank you.
Está complicada y difícil,
It's a very complicated and difficult question to answer.
porque creo que a nadie nos gusta que un país sea que sea bombardea a otro desde el cielo, ¿no?
Because I don't think anybody, whoever we are, likes to see one country bombing another from the sky.
Y yo me enteré lo primero que pensé cuando me enteré que iban a bombardear Afganistán,
The first thing I thought when I found out that they were going to be bombing Afghanistan
fue en las mujeres de Afganistán que llevan 10 años peleando con el gobierno talibán.
was the women in Afghanistan who've been fighting the Taliban for 10 years.
Y pensé que como siempre hay daños colaterales, seguro que algunas de esas además las mataban las bombas.
And I thought that because there's always collateral damage, I thought I'm sure that some of these women or one of these women will be killed.
Pero a lo mejor el gobierno talibán tampoco dejó otra posibilidad.
But perhaps the Taliban government left no choice.
De cualquier forma es evidente que hay que reordenar o reorganizar el mundo desde que desaparecieron los dos bloques.
At any rate, it's evident that the world must be reorganized or reordered since the disappearance of the two military blocs.
Y a lo mejor este es el momento.
And perhaps this is the time to do that.
Yo creo que sin importar que sea Estados Unidos o Afganistán o un país de Europa o de América Latina, desde que sea para enfrentar el terrorismo, el método está bien visto.
I think that regardless of whether it's the United States or Europe or Afghanistan or any other country, that as long as it's a fight against terrorism, then it will be well worth it.
Porque puede costar miles de vidas humanas en medio de la guerra.
Because thousands of lives might be lost in a war.
Pero se le hace frente a un monstruo que puede envolver al mundo y puede destruirlo, no como tal acabarlo, pero sí amedrentarlo, y eso no se puede permitir.
But we're confronting a monster that couldn't finish off the world, let's say, but it could finish off this world as we know it through fear, and that's what we've got to face.
Let me ask you a question. Our dean, Jeffrey Cowan, has had a terrific career, but one of the things he did, he couldn't be here today, he was head of the Voice of America. And in fact, his father founded the Voice of America. And I know if he were here, he would be curious to ask you, how important has the Voice of America been to your country and to your getting news? And I want you to be honest about it, because there are criticisms, but there's also praise.
Yo he conocido cada vez que ha habido un evento internacional de protesta por grupos terroristas o por violencia, siempre estaba ahí la voz de América.
I know that the Voice of America was always there when there was a protest or opposition to terrorism.
Y lo recuerdo en Moscú en mayo del 98 y lo recuerdo el otro día en Washington.
I remember that in Moscow in May of 1998. I remember it the other day in Washington.
Y yo siempre lo he visto en actos de protesta contra la violencia, no solo el terrorismo, sino contra
And
la
I've
violencia.
always seen them participate in acts against violence, not only against terrorism, but in protests against violence.
En el caso específico de Colombia ha tenido una gran importancia en cuanto a la defensa de derechos humanos.
In the specific case of Colombia, they've played an important role in the defense of human rights.
La Voz de América y otras organizaciones, otros movimientos han ayudado a que el mundo ponga los ojos en Colombia.
The Voice of America and other organizations of its kind have managed to get people to look at Colombia.
Y que se cuestione sobre todo la acción de los grupos paramilitares contra la población civil.
And finally, people are seeing the action of these paramilitary groups against civilian populations.
Let me ask another question.
Otra pregunta.
Connected with that, Judy Woodruff, I think it was Judy Woodruff's voice on all of this, and Judy Woodruff has been a prominent CNN person, and she was one of the co-founders or founders of International. And she's not responsible for all of CNN, but how important has CNN been to coverage of your countries, and do you have criticism or?
Nosotros, de hecho, nos hemos informado de lo que pasaba a través de CNN y a través de Life. O sea que
No, we've a través de
sí, Life es del programa.
We precisely, specifically in Spain, we've found out a lot of what's going on through CNN and also through Life.
Porque como tienen 24 horas de información, al final es muy fácil.
Because since they broadcast information 24 hours a day, it's very easy.
Y voy a contar una anécdota.
And I'd like to tell a little story.
Mi hijo el mayor está estudiando en Estocolmo, en Suecia.
My oldest son is studying in Sweden. He's in Stockholm.
Y cuando yo me enteré de lo que había pasado con la primera torre gemela,
and when I found out what had happened with the first of the Twin Towers,
lo telefoné para decirle que lo que estaba pasando y no se lo creía. Entonces
I called him to tell him what was happening, and he didn't believe me.
Y entonces le dije, ¿tienes una televisión cerca?
And I said, do you have a TV close by?
Pon la CNN.
I said, put on CNN.
Y él lo vio a través de la CNN.
And he was able to see it on CNN.
Y en primera instancia creyó que era montaje y luego ya se...
And at first he thought it was all a show, but then he believed it.
Que fue la CNN la que informó a mi hijo también.
So CNN was the one that informed my son as well.
En Colombia CNN también sirvió como un gran centro para poder retransmitir información.
In Colombia as well, CNN was a wonderful center from which we could rebroadcast the information.
Y nos quedamos asombrados de la sobriedad que manejaron a pesar de la situación.
And we were impressed by the sobriety with which they were able to broadcast the information in spite of the horror of it all.
Eso es muy bueno para el periodismo.
That's very good for journalism.
Okay, we have to break now, but let me just say, if the dean were here and the president said we have to deal with life as it's normal, he would want to give you an Annenberg t-shirt. And so here are your Annenberg t-shirts. They're great. And let me remind, and